the department, the USAASA delegation, as I greet you this evening, and also greeting fellow South Africans who are following us from the different platforms. May I start by indicating just a few ground rules so that we are able to have a proper meeting. Please, let's just remember that we speak through the chair of the meeting so that we make things easier for the meeting to proceed. Secondly, if you are not on the platform, please make sure that you switch your mic off or you mute it, as well as your video camera, just to avoid what we had, that in case you feel tired at some point and you decide to change the attire from what we have as formal, we don't see those pictures make sure that associated with the committee. I'm sure honorable members would remember that pic that was circulating whilst we were in a meeting. Please just make sure that it's off so that at least the public would see a speaker that is speaking at a time. But it also helps to manage sounds that come from the backgrounds and so on, so that the meeting is able to move smooth. The other point to really raise in my opening remarks is that we would be receiving these presentations from the department and USAASA. As we may be well aware that we had dealt with the strategic plans, the APPs, when we're dealing with the budget vote, but we are meeting because the supplementary budget would have affected certain departments, and in this instance, USAASA and the CDT are the ones appearing before us with their budget allocations revised downwards, and they will take us through that so that we can be able to engage properly. I'm making this assumption, honorable members, that members have had an opportunity of going through the presentations, and it will therefore not serve the purpose to go on a page-by-page presentation again by the department and the entity, but that we are pointed straight to those areas where the changes would have happened, so that members understand the implications of that in terms of what we thought would be the programs that the department and USAASA would be implementing going forward. And that should help us in the discussions that we get to be focused. I think that would help a great deal. With regard, therefore, to the times, yes, I know we have 3 hours, Honorable Van Dam, 6 to 9, but we can still finish before that time if we are focused in the discussion, which is the good thing about this committee, is that we can interrogate issues that we need to interrogate as a team. So we'll allow really a few minutes in terms of presentation. I'll say 35 minutes because of the introduction that happens in the beginning, which is split between the department and USAASA. So there would not be a gap between the department and USAASA in terms of the presentation. Thereafter, I would open for members to engage the presentation. So I just thought it's important that we clarify that matter. I'll just be clarified from the application for leave of absence or apologies received. I've only received an apology from the Deputy Minister, Honorable Pinky Kekana, who is unable to join us in the meeting. I'll be guided by the acting DG at the time if the minister would have joined, or whether I will be the one leading the team, and therefore indicate how they are approaching the presentations from the side of the department. With that having said, once again, please feel welcomed. That includes our guests, and that we can now move to the actual item of the day, the briefing by the department and the briefing by USAASA on the budget vote. May I get an indication if acting DG, Mr. Omega Shalembe.
Yes.
You know, I like the name Omega, right? Omega Shalembe.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I am informed the minister is in the meeting. Maybe we can just check, but the information I'm getting is the minister is here. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. So, Chair, I will defer to the minister to open. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, will then give to you first, then you'll give us a sense of direction. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening to all the honorable members in their respective areas, the teams from the department, and everybody who's watching us. Chairperson, let me take this opportunity to thank the Portfolio Committee for affording us an opportunity to take it through the programs that we'll be presenting, especially in relation to the budget cuts that we have experienced. As you correctly outlined, Chairperson, earlier, that we had presented some programs that we're going to do, and due to the changes that have been made in relation to the budget review, we therefore had to reconsider certain things or cut shorter on others. I have a team, Chairperson, as led by the ADG administratively, and we also have the executive caretaker of USAASA, who will be taking us through the BDM. The presentation, Chairperson, will focus on what was allocated to us, the plans, and where the cuts are, and how they're going to impact on the programs that we're rolling out. And the team will then take us through, as we'll be going for budget review again in September, to say we continue to engage with Treasury and other means of getting extra funding. With your permission, Chairperson, I will then hand over to the Acting Director General, Mr. Omega Shalembe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I would now give to the Acting DG, the Omega Shalembe.
Thank you, Chairperson. The minister has accordingly given a very nice introduction to our presentation, which is going to be run through by our CFO and acting DDG, Ms. Bachi. So they're going to share the presentation and take the committee through it. Without further ado, Chair, I will then pass over to CFO, Ms. Joy Masimona. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair. And good evening again, Honorable Chair, Minister, and honorable members. Without any waste of time, Chair, I would like to therefore maybe start on the slide, which is slide number 5. Chair, on the table above.
Chair, sorry, there's some background noise. There's some background noise with whoever has their mic on. It's very disturbing. Can you please ask them just to stop that?
Will you please do that? That's what we asked for in the beginning of the meeting, that if you are not the speaker, please mute your mic and switch off your camera so that we can be focused a bit. Thank you. You can proceed, Member Assembly.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I forgot to unmute myself. On the first table, Chair, we're just indicating the budget that has been allocated to the department, the 3.4 billion. This is before the cut. And below, we're showing the funds that have been earmarked for the projects. Number one, we have the SA Connect project for phase 1, allocated 184 million. Then we also have the funds for USAASA for the new model for the BDM project, which is 522 million. And then we also have USAASA funds on the distribution costs for the SAPO for the BDM, still 178 million, Chair, for the 2020-21 financial year. Then during the special adjustment budget, Chair, we were then requested to look within the allocation, and we have met, and the cuts that the savings that were declared within the goods and services line item. And again, the table below shows the where those budgets were cut from which branches. And the total that was cut from the goods and services is 33 million. Chair, I must say that the 33 million, it's mainly coming from the travel and subsistence budget, the advertising, consultants, training and development, venues, because those are the line items that have been affected in the main by the COVID, so those funds will not be spent. And then under program 2, Chair, we realized, we noticed that there was no cut because that program was negatively affected by the unfavorable exchange rate during the payment of the international membership fees. So therefore the savings that were declared from that program were therefore shifted to the line item of the international membership fees to close that gap. And then under program 4, this program is mainly driven by the transfers to the entities. So their goods and services budget is very, very little. And then, Chair, on top of that, through discussions with National Treasury on the 522 million funds that are earmarked for the BDM project. Therefore, it was decided that 15% will be cut, which amounts to 78.3 million. And then on top of that, Chair, the department requested National Treasury to utilize the interest that they will retain for the 2019-20 financial year, to utilize it for the IDTV's project, mainly to assist the grade 12 learners affected by the COVID-19. So that amount amounts to 242 million. So in total, Chair, the budget cut effected in the budget of the department amounts to 111, as also confirmed by the adjustment appropriation bill that was tabled. And then, Chair, on the impact of the budget cuts, mainly the funds that are there have been redirected to provide for the procurement of the PPEs, the sanitizers, the sick bays, the decontamination of premises, and also the provision of data and tools of trade to all the employees so that they are able to work remotely. And also, these cuts have affected the APP targets that were presented to this committee. And with that, the APP will be reviewed in line with the revised budget, and the revised APP will therefore be presented to the minister and therefore presented in Parliament and then presented to this committee, Chair. And then with that, Chair, through you, I will therefore request ADDG Baki, therefore to take us through the key deliverables on the BDM program. Thank you, Chair.
Good evening, Chairperson, honorable members, Minister, ADG, and everyone who is in attendance. Chairperson, honorable members, the next two slides are just reminding the committee as to what is it that we have committed to for this financial year, that there is a phase one in terms of the BDM program, phase one that actually entails depletion of the stock that is currently sitting at the post office. What is involved is to ensure that the stakeholder engagement and participation, which is actually underway, and it will happen across all provinces that are affected. Registration and localization framework, that one is also happening, which is happening in phase one. Centec is going to, USAASA, is going to speak more as to what is happening in detail on phase one, bearing in mind that phase one is already, the money for phase one has not been touched. On phase two, Chairperson and members, this is where the CFO has already touched on that. The amount that has been taken, the 78 million, was supposed to be used for the voucher system portion thereof. This will actually impact the affordability of the migration of devices such as decoders and IDTV sets. So here, yes, there will be work that will be happening, but there is a shortfall that will be experienced by USAASA and indigent households. Next slide, please. Yes. So on the last slide, Chair, I see maybe Joy cannot move the slide. On the next slide, Chair, you will see that here we're just saying, as a reminder, how many households were supposed to be migrated, how many have been catered in phase one, how many are remaining, and the amount that National Treasury had committed over the MTSF period, and that in December last year there was an approved implementation of the voucher subsidy through the provision of IDTVs, amongst others, and also to go out to look for alternative funding in this respect. So, Chairperson and members, we are committed to ensuring that BDM program is implemented, and to that end, Chair, I will allow Mr. Ford to actually go through the detail as to how the phase one and phase two will be implemented by USAASA. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Ford?
Chair.
Yes.
Chair, I'm trying to, there we go, switching on the video.
Then unmute Mr. Ford, unmute your mic so that we can hear you. Mr. Ford? Mr. Ford, we can't hear you. We can see the presentation, but we can't hear you. Nor can we see you.
Chairperson,
Mr. Ford?
IT is trying to assist.
Okay. Hajira, is the IT attending to it?
Yes, Chairperson, IT is trying to assist. 1 second.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear
I
you, Mr.
apologize. We
Ford.
seem to be having a little bit of difficulty with technology again, but I shall just continue, Chair. So if we can move on to the next slide, Sipo, please. So although 78 million rand has been taken away, and that affects a shortfall of 43,000 indigent households, we have the benefit that the National Treasury has approved 242 million for us to provide IDTVs to matriculants from indigent households. Now, the program for IDTVs to indigent households that have matriculants is actually part of BDM Phase 2. So, although there is a shortfall that has been created, it is more than made up by the number of households that will get the IDTVs. We have projected that there should be more than 115,000 households. So that will definitely offset what we have seen in the reduction through the reallocation of the budget. At this stage, Chair, I want to thank you, and I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Sipo, who will take us through a little bit of background on BDM and then also on the direct impact on the APP. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sipo.
Good evening, Honorable Minister. Good evening, honorable members. I'm going to take you through background of BDM, and also I'm going to take you through the programs that are affected.
Sipo, please can you
just make sure we can
our
see
colleagues through and
this is not okay. The slide projected is the slide that already DGG Baki have already presented, and I'm not going to dwell more on it. I'll be going to the next slide that talks about the digital migration ecosystem that comes from the BDM policy. Honorable members will recall that last year the delivery model for DTT in December, it was revised. And as such now, if you check the notable change here, it's on Centec when it comes to transmission network. Now Centec will collaborate with USAASA in terms of now implementing phase 1 implementation of the DTT, where we will be working closely with Centec on installation of the 860,000 STBs that were procured in the prior years. And then secondly, under USAASA, you will note that we have included the IDTV sets as part now of implementing the policy directives that were issued by the minister as part of a government response to COVID. In the second slide, it shows now the impact on our APP. The one that I will want to draw the attention of the honorable members is the one that deals with the phase 2 implementation, where we'll be distributing vouchers to the qualifying households. Previously, from the APP that was presented in Parliament, the value of the voucher system was 578 million. And as the CFO of the department has presented that we have experienced budget cuts, and as such now, the number of the qualifying households that will be provided with the vouchers in Q3 and Q4 have been revised downwards. But however, the executive caretaker has already alluded on the fact that we have now a project where now we are targeting the 2020 great learners, and in terms of this now, we'll be able to compensate for the shortfall. Mr. Ford, I'm done.
Thank you, Butisipo. Chair, if I may, I would like our CFO to take us through to the last section. Thank you.
CFO.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Good evening, Chairperson, honourable members, Minister. Yeah, just the previous slide, please. Just the previous one. Yeah, on this slide, we want to demonstrate the amount of money that was allocated to the BDM project over the past 10 years. I think the focus is on the 2021 financial year, where you see there's 578 million rand that was allocated. And then there's a flash there on the left-hand side indicating what the amount would be after Treasury has taken or reduced the budget with 78.3 million. We can go to the next slide. Chairperson, on the slide, we are illustrating the amount that was allocated to USAASA over the MTF period. You'll see that in the column 2021, we are reflecting the reduction of 78.3 million. And in the LT years 2021-22 and 22-23, we have not been given any reduction there. Thank you very much.
Chair, I wish to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to present, and we are concluding our presentation now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Honorable members, that's the presentation. I think they've also tried to keep within time to allow space for you to engage the presentation. I want to remind honorable members once again that in the main we are engaging areas of revision, because the department as well as the entity would have presented an APP and a strategic plan, which the committee would have processed. So would focus on the area of concern now. So for those members who want to speak, please indicate so that to give you an opportunity to speak. Please IT assist in that the document is unshared now, so that we proceed. May I take those members who would want to speak? I see Honorable Faku, Honorable Mackenzie, see Honorable Van Dam. That's after Honorable Mackenzie. Unless I'm leaving any other member for now, those are the three hands, and we'll then check if there are still members who want to speak. Honorable Faku.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to honorable members, Minister, and As chairperson, I think let us welcome the presentation. I think we're going somewhere with the presentation
We're
from
trying to
USAASA.
see you, Honorable Faku.
My
really
network is so bad, Chair. I'm standing on top of the mountain. Can I be excused in terms of showing my face?
USAASA is here to and the minister. It's fine.
Chair?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I was saying, Chairperson, let us welcome the presentation from USAASA. Let us welcome. What I wanted to hear, when Ms. Baki was presenting, she indicated there's a shortage of budget. Now I wanted to understand for EDTT, will we be able to proceed in making sure that all those targeted households will be covered with the current budget? Because I was a bit skeptical about what she was saying. And my second question, Chair, will be, remember we made recommendations to say that for me as a person who can afford, if I want to migrate, and then we make the proposal of the antenna, I don't hear that in the presentation. And if we can be given time frames, I understand that now there's COVID. Maybe we must be given time frames when the project will start. I hear that there are engagement with some stakeholders. Are those engagement, have they started anywhere like in other provinces? I know in Free State they were doing it, like Eastern Cape. Has that started? But also we want to welcome the procurement of the TV sets for grade 12 matriculants, because we, as we're doing oversight in our constituencies, we can hear that people are excited about this project. It will help grade 12s. What I wanted just to check is that when will the project really start, and when is have they already signed a memorandum or SLA with Centec? Because the last time we heard that they were in the process of signing that. Thanks, Chair.
Honorable Faku, Honorable Mackenzie. Unmute Honorable Mackenzie so that we can hear you. Now, but it still shows as muted on the screen. Yeah, just unmute. Honorable members, it's unless it's on my side, I really can't hear Honorable Mackenzie, and it shows as muted. Okay. No.
Chairperson, I'll get IT to call. If you can maybe take the next caller, the next question.
Just hold it, Honorable Mackenzie. I just want to hear if really it's on my side. Honorable Van Dam, can you hear on my side? Or should be next?
Okay, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
And we can hear you. That's why I wanted to know where the problem is.
Should I go, or are you waiting for Honorable Mackenzie?
I would say that you come in whilst it's Honorable Mackenzie is being sorted out, so that we can manage time. Yeah.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to say that I'm grateful to your office for discussing, requesting a meeting with the SABC following our last meeting, just to be briefed a little bit more about the retrenchments process. I'd like to request that at that meeting, we also have the SABC staff, or whoever the representatives are. I think it's important that we hear both sides of the story so that we can satisfy ourselves that the process is unfolding in a fair manner and in terms of the LRA. And just if we can have input from the department in the oversight capacity that they have on the SABC, what the process has been thus far and whether they're satisfied with the process, whether there are any concerns they have noted. And then in terms of the adjusted budgets, I think this has been an important trial run for government to be able to change with the times during a financial year. Money gets budgeted, but sometimes during the year, things happen and government needs to be able to be nimble and allocate funding as is required. I must express my very strong objection to the 240 million that's been allocated for IDTVs for indigent matrics. It makes absolutely zero sense unless someone has already been earmarked for a tender, which makes no sense. So matriculants will be allocated IDTVs. Then what? What happens to next year's matrics? So I think what should have happened was a discussion with the Department of Basic Education and money be allocated to provide learners with laptops or whatever is necessary, something that then can be given to the next year's learners. IDTVs is an absolute waste of money. That IDTV will not go only to the matriculant, it will go to the family, and it's simply not the correct expenditure of money if the stated goal is to assist matriculants. Rather provide them with a laptop. So I don't understand the rationale behind that. I know the minister, who was, by the way, very rude in her engagement with this committee and myself last week, or the last time we spoke. So I hope this time around, so yeah, I just want to understand that. No, Chair.
No, order. Order,
no,
Honorable.
No, you didn't call her to order last time. You didn't call her to order last time.
Make your point, I did. Both of you.
No, you didn't. So, I'm just telling her, when she speaks back here, she better make sure that she's on her P's and Q's. So I just want to understand the rationale behind that, and whether or not the tender has already been allocated. Thanks, Chair. And you didn't call her to order.
We'll bring the records back. Honorable Mackenzie, are you now connected better? It still shows muted from how we look at it on the screen. As I say, it's unless it's on my side, but I really can't hear you. I can hear you, Honorable Mackenzie. Are other members hearing Honorable Mackenzie? Maybe it's a problem on my side.
No, Chair, we are.
No, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes, but then it means it's a problem on the side of Honorable Mackenzie. And I thought IT was addressing the matter. Because I can really do nothing from the side of the chair on the matter, but ICT must help us so that Honorable Mackenzie can make his point.
Chairperson, IT called, it worked. It has the same problem now, so I've just asked him to call again. Thank you.
Still come back to Honorable Mackenzie because he must make his point. May I just check if there are other members who would want to come in at this point, or we allow responses?
Honorable Kubeka.
Honorable Kubeka. Okay. Any other member? Okay, we'll then take Honorable Kubeka.
Can you hear me now?
Now you are back. Then we can hear you.
Now we can hear you.
You'll come immediately after Honorable Mackenzie.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. This is a joyful time for me. I've learned to take the link and copy it into Safari, and now it works. Thank you very much for the indulgence. Good evening, Chairperson. Good evening, colleagues. Good evening, Minister. Minister, it's It's nice to see you all, that you're all well and healthy. Firstly, Chairperson, if I can just have a bit of clarity, what is this executive caretaker role? I think Mr. Ford is filling that. I've never heard of such an appointment before. You know, what are the roles and the duties and responsibilities of the executive caretaker? And under what regulations or rules was this appointment made? Sorry, Chairperson, if this has been discussed before when I wasn't here due to illness or whatever, please excuse me. And if I'm covering ground that's already been covered, then just point that out to me, and I will defer to the colleagues for an answer. So if you can just explain what the executive caretaker is. Then just in terms of the vouchers, if we could have a bit more detail on these vouchers. What do they look like? How much are they? Can they be redeemed for cash? Are they designed for the purchase of specific equipment? I think the purpose behind the whole broadcasting digital migration project was always to make sure that none of our people, especially the poorest of the poor, are disconnected at any time from the public broadcaster, which is the main source of their information. And I think if we fail to do that, then we are letting the poorest of the poor down. So if you can just, I think, especially in this time of COVID, when there's so much desperation, we need to make sure that those vouchers are used exactly for the purpose they're intended, and that there are no mashonisas or anybody else around that are going to use this as an opportunity to exploit people. So if you could just give me a lot of detail around those vouchers and what steps are being taken to prevent abuse of that system. And I'm saying not so much by the people that are the beneficiaries of that, but by people that exploit them. And as an example, you can see when grants are handed out, how the vultures hang around to prey on people. Then I'm particularly concerned about the IDTVs for matriculants, and I share a lot of the concerns expressed by my colleague Honourable Van Dam. If I can just also add, if you're rolling out television sets to matriculants now, Chairperson, it's the 7th of July. They're writing exams in November. How is this going to help this year's generation of matriculants? Next year, COVID could be lifted. You're rolling out, as I understood it, another half TVs next year. Well, what if everybody is back at school? But I'm particularly concerned about this year's generation. We have private schools and some other suburban schools that are doing online classrooms for people. But again, it's our communities in deep rural areas, it's the poor communities, it's the poorer matriculants that are going to bear the brunt of this, and that are going to lose their schooling and lose their chance to access equal opportunities in life. And that should be very concerning for all of us, Chairperson. So if I could have an explanation around that. Then since July 2015, which was the targeted deadline for the switch off of analog, our analog signal our signal in those bands has not been protected. In other words, it's open. Anybody can wade in. Do you have any, what is the completion date, the final completion date that we are setting for this broadcasting digital migration project? Is it 2023 that I saw in the slide? What is the absolute deadline? Because I see in phase 2, we're still sitting with 3.2 million people that need to be connected. So by when are we going to have this done? The timeline that's extended for this is frankly completely unacceptable. Then if I can just go back to IDTVs again. Was an RFP issued? Now, just to roll it back a bit, if we look at the process that was followed for the acquisition of set-top boxes, the number of times government was taken to court by manufacturers, whether we would have encryption or no encryption, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it delayed the process so much. And then we also had people that were supposedly manufacturing set-top boxes that never manufactured a single box. So that process was so fundamentally flawed as it was rolled out. And you can see by the amount of stock that's sitting in the South African Post Office as well, still to be distributed. So what steps are we taking to make sure that a similar procurement process doesn't happen around the procurement of IDTVs. You know, we're going to have people taking us to court because they're saying, well, you excluded our TV or you went for that TV. Why did you do that? And again, we will have more delays. So if I can just have some comfort around that, around the issuing of tenders and RFPs as far as the IDTV project goes. I'll leave that for now. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Mackenzie. Honorable Kubega.
No, thank you, Chair. Greetings to the Chair, to the Minister, to the honorable members, and also let me join the queue, especially on the issue of the IDTV chairperson. I think I will follow my colleague, Comrade Faku, to say I'm supporting this. Why? Because you can see, Chairperson, as they are also raising the issue of the laptops, I think you can just check the balance of forces to say when you come to the rural areas, there is still a challenge on the issue of those learners, maybe in order that they can use those laptops. So I would support this program because already it has already started. They are following in order that they must assist those grade 12s. So I would support that program, Chair. And let me appreciate, especially on the issue of these set-top boxes, as with that high number that we were concerned about it, to say now the department, they have managed to prioritize, as they are saying, for phase 1. It's a priority in order that they can see how can they speed up this process in order that we must have now a final story of this set of boxes. But also I would like just to ask to the department to say, is it possible when coming to the issue of time frame, as we can see now, the issue of COVID, it rises. So is it possible to say they can give us that time frame, or is still a challenge? Because I think right now they have managed to plan based on the issue of COVID-19. So we would like just to hear to say we can be very much happy if now, as the USAASA is trying to work with the Centec just to speed up, to finalize the issue of this BDM thing, because now it's a long time we were discussing with this thing, Chair. So that's my question that I would like to know on the issue of the time frame. Are they going to manage, or what are they saying on the issues? Is there any challenges or what, Chair? Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Kubeka. Honorable members, as we will get responses at this point, I think we'll also allow another round of questions if there are still questions. But let's just help each other by ensuring that we switch on our mics and our cameras. As we're told, we are also seen live on the Parliament channel. But I don't want to stop the flow of a discussion by interjecting all the time and reminding ourselves. I'm sure from the department and USAASA, Minister would guide whether you would come after or you would give the department officials first. But it's over to yourselves to clarify the points that have been raised.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. With your permission, I will allow the ADG and the other officials to respond to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Let's allow them to speak. ADG.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to the Minister. Chair, the bulk of the questions are going to be handled by my colleagues as they relate mostly onto BDM. But Maybe for me, Chair, is to go back to that question by Honorable Mackenzie about the executive caretaker. What I heard Honorable Mackenzie saying, Chair, was almost trying to ascertain if this has indeed been presented to the committee, and maybe it could have happened when he was not here, which indeed is the case, Chair. So I don't know if you would want me to again go back to this, or the Chair will indeed confirm that the matter was explained, in which case then we can further send additional information to Honorable Mackenzie if it is still necessary, Chair. I'm just checking before I proceed.
No, thanks. We can come back to it because anyway, the committee would have discussed it even when Honorable Mackenzie was back. That included the sitter appointment. There was a resolution in terms of the feedback we needed to get. We'll just remind each other. Proceed to the other points.
Okay, thank you very much, Chairperson. In that case, then I am going to request Ms. Baji to tackle some of the BDM questions, and certainly assisted by USAASA. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, Honorable Members, Minister ADG. I'm going to first respond to the questions raised by Honorable Member Faku as to the reduction with respect to the second phase. Here, the reduction is that 78 million has been from the funds has been taken away from USAASA's budget, which USAASA has gone into detail with. So with that 78 million, however, there was another amount that USAASA has been allowed to keep, which is the 242 million, which the executive caretaker spoke to. So the 78 million is the reduction. Then the other question was, what is the final date for BDM? Chairperson, if you may allow me, you would recall that we had come and presented the model and also the implementation as to how do we see digital migration being implemented, and there was even a map. So in terms of that map, Chairperson, you would recall that we had targeted a date of December 2021. That was the date that was targeted there. But I hear the date of 2023, so I'm not sure where it is coming from. So that is the one. Then the other issue is more on the vouchers. This matter as well, we did come to the portfolio committee to explain the cabinet delivery model that was approved. Also, the voucher as being approved by the National Treasury, that the voucher as it stands will be for a device that is capable of making sure that there's migration. Device such as your IDTVs, such as your set-top boxes, and it was recognized both by National Treasury and Cabinet that there will be a shortfall, and that Minister was tasked to go and look for alternative funding should there be that shortfall which was identified. So that is where we were on the vouchers. I am not sure, DG, if I missed any other question. If I haven't, I'll pass over to Mr. Ford.
Chair.
Yes, Honorable Kubek.
Yes, can I just get a clarity from the DDG to say, based on this situation of the COVID, because they have already planned them, as we understand it, by 2021, their time frame, is it still possible or is it still safe? Because now we can see this issue of COVID, to say instead of being managed, it seems as if the peak now is going high. It doesn't affect? Are you still fine with this 2021? That is my question to the DDJ.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Kubeka, for that question. You would recognize that during what we now know as level lockdown 5, there was nothing that was allowed in terms of manufacturing, installation, you name it, when it comes to set-top boxes. So essentially what we know as the department is that we had lost a period of 8 weeks that in order for us to meet the deadline. As a result, entities, you would see that entities, we received a directive from Department of DPME that entities are allowed to change their APPs. So USAASA and ourselves are going to align our APPs considering the time that has been lost and the interruptions that have happened. So there is that during especially level 5 lockdown, there was that interruption, Honorable Chairperson. So I wanted to just give the Honorable Kubeka that comfort that the updated, revised APPs will go through the normal processes and to say how we've been impacted. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Ms. Bachi. Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Chair, Honourable Minister, honourable members. Honourable Chair, if you may allow me to questions instead of per honourable member basis, but rather to consolidate the questions asked by the various members and then answer on that basis. So on the first matter, it's whether or not there is going to be a delay on DTT given the shortage as well as the timeframes. On BDM phase 1, which is the depletion of the stock at the SAPA warehouses, no funds have been taken from that, and we think that the depletion of the stock will take place, not necessarily according to how we originally planned. It might be slightly delayed, but the important thing is that the appointment of Centec is really going to help us to accelerate that depletion of the stock. And the primary reasons why that will help us is because Centec has got a good footprint throughout the country. They've got the experience, the expertise to manage the installations. They've got the ability to quality assure the installations properly. And those are the things that were not done previously. So we really think that having Centec assist us with this particular aspect will help us to get to move the stock out of the post office warehouse and get them put in place quickly. In terms of the grade 12s, now that question did come through from a number of honourable members. So essentially, this particular project is what I would call a noble project, and it's a noble project simply because we are trying to help the most vulnerable students. If you look at the metrics across the board, and Honourable Mackenzie said it quite well in that, you know, we have a broad spectrum of people, and a lot of the ones that can afford it have got access to online courses, have got access to programs, educational programs that are being broadcast on TV. But he also said that the ones that are in the rural provinces, the ones that cannot afford to do these things, those are the most disadvantaged, and those are the ones that we as USAASA are trying to help. So the IDTVs going to there, I know that the debate is, but it's so late in the year. But the reality is that it's not late, because the school year at this point is still fluctuating between opening and closing. And at the same time, the programs are being broadcast. The TVs give an opportunity to the matriculants to catch up. Now, I'm going to give my age away a little bit, but when I was in matric, I remember that the most crucial time for me was just before prelims, just after prelims, and before finals. And I used to go to Wits to go and listen to William Smith, who used to teach maths and science and all those things. And it was brilliant because for me, not only was that an ability to catch up on what I'd missed, but the quality of education that was given at that particular point in time to me was that it leveled the playing field for me. I then was able to learn at the same level as other people who went to schools that were better than mine. So that's what we are trying to do here. We are trying to give an opportunity to kids that would never have got an opportunity. And the reality is that this year, the matric year, is the most important year for any student in their entire lives, because that's at the point where the doors either become open or they don't get open. So I think for me personally, this is really the kind of project that makes sense, that has huge impact. So the question was progress, and who have we engaged with? So we have engaged with DBE, both at local, both at national level, and also at local level in terms of the provinces. So we've engaged with DB at the provinces, but not only DBE, we've also engaged with provincial representatives, district representatives. Everybody is so excited trying to help us to compile a list of these matriculants or the households where these matriculants are, to make sure that we get it to the right people. So everybody is really, really helping. The department is helping. The intergovernmental relations team has been absolutely fantastic in helping us with that. So we are engaging across a wide spectrum to make sure that we cover everybody that we should be covering. In terms of timelines, we want to try and get it out as quick as possible, so that we, in terms of the vouchers, the one thing I just want to add in terms of the vouchers was that the vouchers cannot be converted into cash. It's just for an instrument that the ADG was saying. Okay, yeah, I've spoken. The last question was I've spoken about the set-top boxes and the appointment of SafeText to help us with that. That is a priority, and we want to get that out as quick as possible. I think I've covered everything. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Unless there's a
Mr. Ford did not answer all my questions.
Minister, Honorable Fagu.
I did not hear anyone responding to. Chair, I did not hear the. Chairperson, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Chair? Can you hear me, Chair?
Honorable Fagu, it seems you are the one who do not hear me. Please
I can hear you.
The chair. I was trying to help you to get answers from Mr. Ford or any other person. Yes. So the point you were asking, is the Centec agreement signed or is it still in the process? So that was one question you've asked, which has not been answered directly. There's also a question from Honorable Mackenzie, which related to the experience of the set-top boxes, the procurement process, which then halted and it had to be started, then the courts and so on. Is the process that is followed at this point in time giving you the necessary comfort that you'll be able to deliver within the timelines that you've set up, having learned from that experience. I'm just saying those I noted as questions that would have not been specifically answered by either the department or USAASA. As I said, we'll still allow another round of questions, but if we can have answers to the first questions that have been asked.
Chair.
Honorable Van Dam, what do you want to raise?
I also asked a question about the IDTVs, whether that tender process has been completed, because I also heard Honorable Kubeka saying it's already started. And then about the
Honorable Van Dam, that is why I want Mr. Ford to come back to that point, because Honorable McKenzie was building up on your question regarding the procurement process. Honorable Kubeka, it's unless I didn't hear you well, you only welcomed the part that relates to the IDTVs, not necessarily that they are being implemented already. That is why I want Mr. Ford to still come back and answer those questions, if you allow me. If you are not satisfied with the answer, I think in the second round of questions, we can still get back to that. But I would want us to complete these first questions that you asked. Mr. Ford?
Thank you, Chair.
Chair, no. And the other question? Chair.
Yes, Honorable Van Dam.
Oh, sorry, Chair, my network was breaking, so I wasn't sure if you can hear me.
Okay, then Mr. Ford, you can proceed in the meantime.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, with regard to the Centec agreement, we've been engaging with them. We are busy compiling a clean, what the lawyers call a clean agreement, meaning that all of the comments and all of that are being taken out. So that clean agreement is now being prepared for signature. I think if we weren't over here tonight, we would have probably have been able to complete the signing of that particular agreement. With regard to the progress of the procurement of the IDTVs, yes, there was a tender that was issued. I can't remember the exact date now, but we had just closed the tender on the 2nd, which was last week, Thursday, and we are going through the evaluation process now. And the evaluation process is planned to take place between 1 and 3 weeks, depending on the level of complexity of the bids. So that's where we are on the progress of the procurement process. Chair, I think I've answered all the questions, but I may have missed one while I was trying to write the question down. So if I have missed something, please let me know. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Now, if you can, Mr. Ford, if you can clarify that question. As I said, Honorable McKenzie built on that question of where the tender process is, on whether you can have possible litigation like it has happened with a set of boxes. How are you handling that part so that you are able to meet the timelines that you've set, so that we don't have what we have in the storage now because of the problems of the past? I think that was for me quite a straight question that needed a straight answer. Honorable Faku asked specifically about whether the Centec agreement has been signed or not, because that is also important in the depletion of the stock that you have in the post office. But in the presentation, you've presented, I think both of you, with Mr. Mngobisa, you would have said that the Centec agreement will help us. So we're not sure. Is there an agreement or it's yet to be there? And that's a specific question. So you've missed those questions. If you can get back to them.
Okay, Chair. Chair, with regard to the CENTEC agreement, as I said, we were in the process of compiling that clean agreement, meaning it's an agreement that is ready for signature. That particular that agreement will be signed, and as I said, if we weren't here, we would have probably been able to finalize that agreement tonight, meaning that we could have signed it tonight. So with regard to the tender processes, prior to the start of the tender processes, we made sure that we consulted even with experts in other state-owned entities that would help us to make sure that the process we undertook for the tender is a process that is not problematic, that will not have any issues. We have also made sure that we have followed our own procurement processes to the letter. So by doing all of that, we are trying to ensure that there are no gaps or loopholes where people can sue us for that. So we have taken every single precaution that we can to make sure that the process goes according to the procurement rules, and it goes through it fairly, and that we don't have any issues later, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Before I get to the hands that I would note now, Ms. Baji, probably would have thought that this matter will be covered here. Specific question from Honorable Faku regarding the unsubsidized, which she said was not really explained on what is to happen to those as a result by the committee. Then we'll then take another round of questions after your response. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, on the second last slide of our presentation, I did allude to the stakeholder engagement plan, which will include a advertising and media campaign, wherein we are going to encourage those that would say are falling outside the subsidized market, that they must go into the market and ensure that they buy antennas that will enable them to receive the DTT channels. That is one that we're going to do. The second issue, the Chair, at the last engagement around BDM, we did explain that the issue of the standards with the USAASA have been relaxed insofar as set-top boxes. As a result, they will not be only be the expensive set-top boxes. There will be a standard that actually allows for manufacturers to manufacture a cheaper set-top boxes. And to this end, before and after that announcement, the minister convened a meeting with all OEMs to actually take them through the revised standard as published by USAASA. At this particular point, we know that because there's issues around level 5, that there was little and no manufacturing of those those set-top boxes. You would recall, Chair, that during that period there was not even a sale of television sets, so there was no manufacture. But we are planning to have an engagement plan that will include advertising and the likes. This will be led within our streams by the SAPC. If you remember the model that we presented, that SAPC is leading when it comes to the campaigns. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Ms. Baji. I will now take a second round of questions for those members who want to still ask questions, unless the minister wants to speak now. Oh, it's your hand up. All right. Minister.
Thank you, Chair. There was just a component that was not responded to, which both Honorable Mackenzie and Honorable Van Dam spoke to, which is what I responded to last year on the issue of the IDTVs, where they're registering their concern. And I want to say, Honorable Members, we do note your concern. But as I explained last week, or in the meeting that we had, the DTT money or the BDM money, according to Treasury rules, is the budget that's ring-fenced. When it's ring-fenced, it means we cannot take it and go and buy other things. The department did not seek or take from another budget to buy the IDTVs, like I said. The youth agency, what it did was to say on the interest end, on the budget meant for BDM, to say as part of assisting on education for the same beneficiaries of the BDM. All we will do is to prioritize those households with matrics, same beneficiaries, not introducing new people, not introducing new device boards. It's amount that is ring-fenced. That is why we could not even explore laptops or tablets. As I said, the department does not have a responsibility to buy those. And I explained that even the rationale to say we're stepping in on education was also at the portfolio organizations that we have, that we have a public broadcaster that must benefit on the rollout of DTT, but in this instance, to champion an educational channel, using the same funds allocated by government for its own program for the same beneficiaries. The last part, Chairperson, on the issue of UDDG, Baki has spoken to it, on the issue of engaging the manufacturers. Are we certain about the timelines and all that? As the DDG reported, we convened all stakeholders, including those that produce aerial. We looked into the entire ecosystem of the BDM, because we were wary of a situation whereby we go and make pronouncements to say, come such and such a period, we would have migrated, whilst the capabilities practically will not allow. Which is why we even asked Cabinet that give us time to engage with those that are producing, and they did share with us their concerns, as DDG said. Then the standards were reviewed, and Ellis and the manufacturers themselves then agreed. Does it mean, therefore, now that we are certain about their capability? The only issue, Chairperson, in relation to procurement that would be a concern would be pricing, according to where I'm seated at. If, therefore, let's say we have 10 manufacturers in South Africa, making an example, and then out of the 10, with the funds that we have as approved by Treasury, then they happen to go beyond that amount. Let's say Treasury has given us 700 rands, and the manufacturers, they want 1,500 rands. Definitely we're not going to be able to afford that, which is why the price is key to say if the manufacturers that are in this country, their capability says we can produce, Minister, 200,000 boxes or 200 TV sets. As we said, it's a hybrid model, which means because we are against time, those that have TV sets, then will get the set-top boxes. As we said, there are those that get DTH, and then there are those that get IDTVs, because we are certain about one thing: time is against us, but most importantly is to make sure that people will have access to the communication that they must achieve via the broadcasting aspect that we are responsible for. Also. Thank you, Chairperson. I will pause there.
Thank you, Minister. I will now take the other round of questions for members to ask questions again. I see Honorable Mackenzie's hand is up. Am I leaving any other member on the second round of questions?
Chairperson, Ms. Van Dam just indicated she's logged out and she'll log back in now.
I'm back.
Okay. May I just check, as I said again, members would want to participate in the second round of questions? Yeah, I saw your hand, Honorable Mackenzie and Honorable Van Dam, but I just want to check if I had skipped other members because the system is not showing me anything at this point. I've tried to check there. I can't. Okay.
My hand is up, Chair.
Honorable Fagu, yes, I see it now. Any other member that I'm leaving in the second round of questions? Okay, if not, we'll then proceed in that way. Honorable Mackenzie, and then we'll have Honorable Faku, Honorable Van Dam. Yes.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you to the presenters. And Mr. Ford, I'm glad you gave William Smith a bit of a plug. I think I'm a little bit older than you, but also watched his stuff. Just in terms of 2023, I see on slide 9, the BDM is still reflected, and I'm a humanities graduate, I'm not a commerce graduate, so perhaps you could explain it to me, why there's still 62 million carried forward as a revised baseline into 2022 and 2023. That's where I got the 2023 from. So if you could explain the implications of that, I'd appreciate it. Then, Mr. Ford, you're adjudicating on the tender, let's take a worst case scenario, by the end of July. And I presume that's for a specific device. So the voucher, I was going to ask what the value of the voucher is, because I understood that people were free to go and buy any device they can. But now there's a tender, so I presume we're going to be restricted to a specific IDTV, which is not necessarily a bad thing in terms of price. So would the voucher then say 1 times Joe Blogg's television? And you would then go and have to source that from, I presume, a retail store somewhere. But assuming if you could just clarify that for me, assuming your tender then at the end of July, you adjudicate the tender, you award it, what is the lead time to manufacture? Because you're talking almost 300,000 television sets, and I wouldn't, I would imagine that would take some time to procure the components and actually manufacture these things. And then the logistics and distribution of getting them to where they need to be, which, as I understand it, is in deep rural areas, often in remote locations. So if you could just explain that for me. And then finally, as I understand it, each television set is required to have a television license, which the funding then goes to the SABC. Will the voucher include the TV license? Because that could be a nice way of funding the SABC. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I want to thank the department for the responses that they've given us. I think, Chair, one of the things that we need to do is to appreciate the work that has been done from where we came and where we are now. So I think it's important. Chair, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Honorable.
Okay. I think, Chairperson, one of the things that we need to appreciate that we're coming forward with this project as the committee and the department, and I think that we're going a long way, and we appreciate the work that has been done. At least there's progress as we're moving forward. I know some colleagues would not agree, but I guess we won't agree on everything. But for some of us, we appreciate the work that has been done. But what is important, we need to push and have time frames and make sure that Centec DDG, this agreement must be signed off. For me, who grew up without a TV, I would understand. At a later stage, some people would not understand why would a grade 12 need a TV. One of the things that we said to SABC as the committee, that we're happy that we have established a channel, an educational channel. That channel is helping. I've got a grade 12 learner here. She's been trying, doing work on YouTube and whatever. So I'm trying to say, Chair, it is important that at this moment that we acknowledge the good work that has been done. But I just want to say that also on the point that Honorable Mackenzie has raised about TV licenses, I think it's important that we encourage our communities with TV licenses, that as part of us giving them the television, and we must just motivate them to pay TV license on a monthly basis, Chair, because we want SABC to generate revenue from that. But from where I'm sitting, I think it's important that we acknowledge the good work that has been done by the department. We understand, of course, this period has given you a bit of challenges that you can't execute on the way that you would want to. But thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Faku. Honorable Fundam.
Thanks, Chair. We of course do appreciate the work that's being done. We always say where there's good being done, we say thank you. But at the same time, we cannot congratulate a fish for swimming. We appreciate it's difficult times. Nobody could have planned the situation that we're in, and government is having to be dynamic and nimble and move with the times. That being said, there's a difference between a situation that you couldn't predict and a situation that's been historical. And now, because of the circumstances of COVID, you can conveniently hide behind that. The fact of the matter is the fact that there are learners that don't have access to online tools, that's a problem. And that's an area where government has failed them, because the lockdown and COVID and schools being closed should have just meant that as a learner, I can pull out my tablets that have been allocated by my school. I can go into the internet because there is, internet has been made available to me. So those are the issues that should have been dealt with before. I think what government has shown during this time is that they can deliver. There's just a lack of political will. I don't know. That's a whole different subject we can engage. But this just shows a problem that has existed in delivery. It shouldn't be that now you are chasing the clock. My colleague, Honorable Mackenzie, raised some very important points. It's July. You hadn't thought through this properly. By the time you go through the tender process, Mr. Ford said something about 3 weeks. Then there's all the other processes, Minister Mackenzie. Incoming, I'm joking.
You are joking for real.
So by the time all those issues have been dealt with, you fail those matrics. So if you are saying instead that, as the minister explained it, that all we are doing is prioritizing households with matrics, then that's easy to understand. Instead of saying that you're doing this because of lockdown, because by the time they get that TV, it's far too late. So I guess my point is, for the next financial year, as part of the digital technologies aspect of the department, please think out of the box. Perhaps Mr. Ford and Mr. Mackenzie and other members of this portfolio committee are a little bit older than me. Honorable Faku, please, you're probably older than me. Learners now don't necessarily get the education of TV. My generation got it on TV. Now they go into the internet. That's where they get the information. So can we please think out of the box? Think creatively about equipping our learners with the tools that they need to enter the economy. Because when you go to university, you need to be able to use a computer. So let's use this opportunity of this time to think about how it is we prepare our learners for the fourth industrial revolution. And then a question that I asked, which was quite important, about the negotiations at the SABC. Has the department or the minister had a look at that process? And are you satisfied that it is being undertaken fairly. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Van Dam. Honorable Kubeka,
Yes, Chair.
I raise your hand.
Yes. Chair.
Just make sure we see you.
Okay. Chair, I wanted just to say I'm happy because now Honorable Minister have tried to explain also. And let me say to this committee, let us not also forget to say the Department of Education is the one who's having a responsibility. So where our department we're supposed to assist, I think the minister have tried to explain as he's trying to even to go further with the issue of that amount which is being ring-fenced in order that it must do whatever that it's supposed to do. So I'm saying, let us not forget to say on the side of the education also, there's a department that needs to play its role there. As we were extending our hand in order that we must assist because there is a crisis as we are in this pandemic that we are in. So I'm saying, Honorable Van Dam, indeed there is something as Comrade Honorable Fagu was trying to explain, the necessity of the TV to those, because now we are coming from different backgrounds. And don't forget that, and it's part of history that has been there in order that we must try to correct the system. So I'm saying, where as the department, we need to play our role. That's where we need to support. Don't forget to say we are extending our hand, but the Department of Education, on those things that you are raising, it is the one who's supposed to have those plans when they were preparing, because now this pandemic, it decided just to be our friends everywhere. We can't hide, we can't ask, is to hold hands and try to see how best can we maneuver or to assist to achieve in this challenge that we are. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Kubeka, I want to just check from the department before one would try and summarize the discussions of the meeting, whether there are specific matters you would want to comment on. Otherwise, in this second round of questions, it's more of comments that members would have made. But if you want to specifically respond to something, this is an opportunity to do so before we summarize the discussion of the meeting. Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. And I really want to thank the deliberations by all the members of the Portfolio Committee, and to say, Chairperson, the teams have responded to all the critical things that have been asked. And of course, where we have not provided satisfactory information, hopefully next time we'll be able to. And we will, in the meantime, try to send documentation, because I remember also Honorable Mackenzie had something that he wanted clarified, which was explained to the committee. So we are available to share information. Just to say, Chairperson, on the issue of the awareness on DTT, specifically for the unsubsidized market, the teams are working on their communication strategy, because as I said, we didn't want a situation whereby we just say people are going to switch off by this period, but we don't tell those that are not going to get subsidy where must they go and look for those, which is why it was important to hear from the industry itself to say which areas are they operating on and where are the devices that are available, and therefore how many can be available to the people of South Africa. We really appreciate this opportunity, honorable members. Hopefully, as we concerned again about the things that we have not done well, we're talking about the broadband and others. Hopefully, when we go for the review, the Portfolio Committee will also help us in terms of trying to get more money in order to make sure that we can cover extensively the areas that are not covered. And of course, one of the key elements that make us to want to do everything in our best to fast track the process of rolling out DTT is that is important that the nation is looking at in terms of making sure that we clear the spectrum that's being occupied by the broadcasters so that it can be used, and therefore we are then able, through that process, to again cover an extensive area. Thanks, Chairperson. I really close there.
No, thank you, Honourable Minister. I take it that you've summarized for the team as a whole, because as I said, the second round of questions was more comments from members. Honourable members, I think what is clear is that we do take note that yes, there is a downward revision of the budget, and in a way it would have affected, in particular, indigent households as it relates to BDM. However, there is at least hope, interest, and this gap will now be addressed. I take it that, Honourable Minister and your team, that the issue that relates to ITVs, it's not really an issue of objection. I think we agree that that intervention is necessary as it relates to the households that you are to address. So it goes beyond just the metric for this year, because it's linked to the households. And as you correctly said, it's about advancement of DTT program, and the money could not be deployed anywhere else. I think there's an understanding from members in that regard. The only worry most of the time is when we talk indigents. It's just to be sure that the database used, it's understandable by everyone, because you have indigent registers that are all over. Municipalities would have indigent registers, social development would have an indigent register, probably linked with also NSFAS once you get to university level. Just make sure that that is reconciled so that the right people, right targeted people are the ones who receive the service of government. And surely, Minister, I think the point to be made at this point is that your intervention is to complement the work done by the Department of Education as far as these TVs are concerned. And I'm raising it in that context because Honorable Faku said sometimes when other things do happen, we must register that progress. I happen to be speaking from that province of paperless classes in the country. That's an important initiative from government, and we have a responsibility. Government should work together, and therefore this intervention should be seen from a point of complementing the other initiatives that are there. And I think what honorable members are saying is that if we can do more, let's do that. And I'm sure for those who would remember, when the tablets were introduced in the schools, you also had your concerns that you've raised, Honorable Mackenzie, that there will be people, as you deliver, they steal them. You put smart boards, they remove them. So you would have that, but it does not mean that there's no initiative taken to ensure that the students, in particular the poor, have access to such services. So I think it's important that we don't forget that. I do not want us to come out as though there's no recognition that the education department in the different provinces, there's been some work done to ensure that you can move in the true sense to this base of laying a base for the fourth industrial revolution. but we still need to do more. I think there's appreciation for that. I also take it that, honorable members, there's an understanding that whilst you deal with that project, we have not withdrawn from the depletion of stock in SAPO, because the money that gets paid to store the set-top boxes that are supposed to be with the people is also costly for the running of the entity itself, and that we need to move away from that. We will need, Minister and the team, clear timelines that we are able to meet those. It helps from a point of oversight that we can go and see that indeed the set-top boxes are going out of the post office and they are getting to where they are supposed to get. So I think that's for us important, which is the same thing with the rollout of the TVs, because it's not just a distribution, it also talks to the installers of those. And remember, with the set-top boxes, there have been an issue about localization in the different provinces, because this was creating a problem. We would also want to hear that in the actual rollout. More importantly, the point raised by Honorable Mackenzie, I wanted to come back to it at this point about the switch off, that whatever happens, it should not disadvantage the end user there to be able to still access uninterrupted, which I thought from the program that is being presented to us here now, one was thinking that there's a sense of moving ahead of that so that there is no break in between. Because if that could happen, then people can easily reject the program itself, because they would have been receiving a signal and now they have a problem of accessing their TVs. So I'm saying there's an understanding that all those other programs will have to continue, and our role will be to ensure that we play oversight on them. That's the same thing with the unsubsidized market, that would really want to see that communication strategy of marketing what is available in the market and that people can access. You may not know the 43,000 that you say may be excluded. Just by making the receivers accessible to everyone, natural subsidization would happen as it has happened with other services, that those who can afford can still help their families in the process. It does happen in the way we live. So that's not like everything it would wait for a tender or government to do, but if it's accessible, people will also make means. It's just that the part about the license, Minister, did hear it well, whether in the first round that you are going to push the vouchers, whether there's something built in for SABC. I'm raising it because I know honorable members would have raised it previously when we talked about spectrum, on whether there's a portion that SABC would get in order to try and sustain the SABC. But I'm sure those are matters you can still come back to us on. Otherwise, at this point, that's really the summary of what the discussions have been. I will check if there is probably another round of questions or the comments that members wanted to make before I would finally close the discussion. I see Honorable Mackenzie, your hand was up. Honorable Faku, Honorable Van Dam, then there will be Honorable Kubeka, your last points, and then we can move towards closure. Yes. Honorable Mackenzie. Honorable. Followed by Honorable Faku, followed by Honorable Van Dam, and then that will be Honorable Kubeka. Honorable Mackenzie, because your hand was up first. Yes.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for your indulgence. I'm sorry to come in after your summary. I did ask 3 quite specific questions, but let me give Mr. Ford a break on the components and lead time to manufacture for the IDTVs. You can park that question, or you can answer it in writing. That would be fine. If you can just explain to me the relevance on slide 9 or 10, slide 9 of the USAF digital broadcasting digital migration carrying over into 2022 and 2023. If you can just explain how that fits into the deadline of 2021, I'd really need an answer on that. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Mackenzie, Honorable Faku. It seems we have lost Honorable Faku. I'll then move to Honorable Van Dam. If she connects back, we'll give her.
Chairperson, no problem, but anyway, you and I can talk.
No, I can't have a problem with you, Honorable Van Dam.
No problem, but it's fine. It's fine.
Oh.
My question about the SABC, maybe the minister did answer it because I broke up for a little bit. It's the 3rd time now. How are the negotiations going? That's the simple question I have, and I apologize if she did answer it.
Honorable Kubeka, are you still connected?
Yes, Chair, I'm still connected.
Honorable Faku, so you can then speak, and then I will allow the minister to respond, or USAASA respond to the question raised by Honorable Mackenzie also.
It's Honorable Faku or it's
Honorable No, okay. I don't hear her.
Okay.
It would appear there's a problem there. You can continue, Honorable Kubeka.
I was saying I would like just to thank also on the side of the department, because now we can see now they are trying to push, but as I want to also just talk to Honorable Van Dam. I'm happy because here we are working as a team, and as we fully understand that we need to play our role as an oversight. Wherever the department is trying to do, because now where we need to be harsher if we want things, indeed we can't just fold our arms. But as the chair has already said, somehow we can see progress is there, because we are trying to push harder on the issue of the 4IR, just to check how best they can assist this country. Let us give them the support, a chance, in order that as we are dealing with the issue of playing an oversight. And I'm happy because now, Chair, can I just put the issue of saying, also after this pandemic, I think we still need, because others, they are managing to play that oversight, even if when times are at this juncture. But I think we will also have an interest as the portfolio committee just to go where we are trying to push, because I hope that next time the caretaker will say something about the issue of the Centec and the department on the issue of the MOU. We don't want to hear another story, or to say now we are still waiting for that. Where we want to be harsh, we will be harsher, in order that things must be pushed and work. But I'm happy at the moment to say the light is there. They are trying their level best. Let them give that support, Chair. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Honorable Kubeka. May I then give an opportunity for a response? Back, Honorable Faku.
Yes,
okay.
Chair. I just wanted to say that, you know, in the last presentation, I don't want the department to respond now, I want them to look to the last presentation that SABC presented about DTT. I don't want the department and minister to respond to that. They must look into that presentation. I'll send notes to them with regards to that. But Chair, I think it's important that as this committee, we must make sure that digital migration must happen soon. So when the spectrum is availed so that it can reboot the economy post-COVID-19, I think Honorable Fanyam has touched on that to say, yes, we're doing things during COVID-19. But I think as we're trying to push this issue of DTT, we must make sure that when the spectrum is availed, and it can also help us to boost the economy. I wanted to raise that point, Chairperson, and I think it will be a great opportunity when USAASA is rolling out, and SABC will be the one who will be the most beneficiary when it comes to TV license payments, Chair. Thanks, Chair. I think that is one thing that the department must promote, is that at least people must pay TV licenses. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Faku. May I then invite the USAASA and the department to respond to specific questions that have been asked. Mr. Ford, would you want to respond on that USAF issue?
Sure.
Or is it okay?
With the minister's permission, I'll just ask our CFO to respond to that with your permission, of course, Chair.
Okay. CFO?
Thank you, Chairperson and members. Yeah, I'm going to try and respond to the question. I don't know why Honorable Mackenzie is always asking the difficult ones. But my understanding is that phase 1 will be completed by December 2021. And that is what is also reflected in our annual performance plans. Phase 2 is what you see on slide 9. The 578 that was now reduced to 500 million and 1.1 billion in the 21-22 financial year. That money is allocated to phase 2, which will not be completed by December 20. In terms of our APP, that will then kick off in the third quarter of the 2020-21 financial year. And it will be obviously completed in the 2021-22 financial year as indicated on that slide there. Because the bulk of the installations of phase 2 will then happen in 2021 and 22. I hope that addresses the question. Thank you.
Honorable Mackenzie, are you saying your point has not been heard? Maybe you want to clarify? Unmute.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. It seems to be a bit of a contradictory information. My first question was very specific. When would we be complete? And we were told end of 2021. And now the CFO has told us, no, we're rolling the programs over 2022, 2023. So actually, just to clarify, the completion of our program then, the ABF, the absolutely final completion date is 2023. I just need to be clear. Thank you, Chairperson, very much.
If I were to come in, Chairperson, to clarify that, with your permission.
Honourable Minister.
Thanks, Chair. When the APP and the plans were made and the allocations by Treasury, as we know, they give over the 3-year period. And when we make the submissions, the reason the ADG mentioned when she was making the explanation, she said Cabinet then gave approval to the minister to say the minister can go and seek more funding, was because we were explaining the challenges that we're going to have in terms of delay in the project if we follow what Treasury has allocated over the years. Then Cabinet then approved that, therefore, Minister, you can go and seek alternative funding so that whatever allocation you can borrow against the allocation and whatever money that will be coming from the spectrum going to Treasury, because it is on that basis. So the plans were already submitted. That's why it will keep on, but it's about the allocation in terms of what Treasury gives to whatever. But our date that we had set up is to 2021, which is why it's important to get the funding now. Chairperson, the other question that was then asked by Honorable Van Dam in relation to the SABC negotiations. The Deputy Minister, as the responsible postcard principal for SABC, is engaging. I know she's preparing to meet with the unions now. And then they have a clear plan that they've rolled out. When she's done, when she has a clear direction of where they're going to, she's going to come and table the report to the portfolio committee. This is the work that started from last week, and then she's continued with that. So she is busy with that work as we are talking. I don't know if there's another question that we had not responded to.
No, Minister, if you still want to come back on the licenses issue, you can still come back in another meeting. It has come up 3 times. On whether in these vouchers, there's also a built-in for SABC to benefit and beyond in that scope. So, but I'm just saying, if the Minister was not ready to speak to it, you can come back to it. Yes, but that's the one outstanding.
If I can speak from the Treasury side in terms of the finances approved and their specification, there was nothing inclusive of the TV license, unless there's space now, depending on their procurement processes, of which I have not seen the specifications, unless there's a way to put that in. But as we're saying that, Chairperson, we're also trying to encourage that we find ways of making sure that even if we engage the pay TVs, to make sure that they do provide a way of saying, as Honorable Mackenzie is a subscriber in a particular pay TV station, he's able to at least give that must be given to SABC, and we are working with the regulator on that. But it's something, as I'm saying, that we're still engaging, because we must make all parties comfortable and understand. But as we engage with the pay TV stations, they have not been against it. But it's those necessary governance processes that we should follow. Thanks, Chair.
No, thanks, Minister. I think, honourable members, we've tried to engage on the issues that were presented to us, and we have received responses. Ours is to make sure that we do the oversight in ensuring the implementation thereof. I just thought I should come to this point, Honorable Van Dam, that we have agreed to have a meeting with SABC to come back to the issues that we discussed with them. And remember, we said we wanted enough time to unpack the conditions that they talked about, in particular the HR pillar in terms of how they are implementing, which includes the consultation with employees or labor. The proposed dates, as you would know, are at the time when there are many plenaries, because our committee is not built for many plenaries. So once the dates are approved by the House Chair, would make those official. But at this point in time, we would not be able to indicate exact dates, but we are to meet the SABC. Our understanding, as we would be meeting the SABC, the department will also give us progress report on the matters that the department needed to deal with, also as part of assisting the SABC to be able to discharge its responsibilities. I'm sure members would still remember that we tried to make that separation. So the meeting is planned to be 2 days because of this 3-hour limitation we have, so that we can still make proper follow-up. As I say this, my understanding is that the portfolio position has not changed, that we are not in agreement with what has been issued out as possible retrenchments. because we would want to have that engagement so that we understand where things are in terms of skills audit and all that, right? So I think it's very important to understand that point, and my understanding remains that there was unanimity in the portfolio committee that we need to engage that matter, and therefore it would have been premature to conclude it in the way it's happening. The deputy minister and the minister were also in our discussion in terms of how we understand things need to be done, and we're also clear that as the shareholder, they would have also clarified the point. So we're in agreement. I think whatever is out there now in the public, it should not make us to forget that we were seized with the matter. We have responded to that matter, and we are calling the SAPC to come before the committee, and we will unpack the matters that will come before us. That's very important to clarify ourselves that this is where we are, and as all parties, we are agreed to that.
Okay.
So you no, Honorable Van Dam, you understand me very well. So you don't need to answer on this, Honorable Minister.
Now I see where your problem is. It's the city press on Sunday. No. I didn't understand why you were so crabby today. Now I understand.
No. You're out of order, and I may have to ask you to keep quiet. So I'm just saying, but it's important that we clarify our position as a portfolio committee, that we are engaged in that process, and that is it. Okay. So if we are agreed, that's how the meeting wraps up on a high note, that the portfolio committee is still in charge of these issues. With that, honorable members, thank you. The meeting stays adjourned.
Lutuli House mustn't go to the SABC. And then now you're
out of order, Van Dam. The meeting has been adjourned. So the ICE will help us.
Now I see what your problem is today.
Honorable Mackenzie.
Yeah,
please pass the cup so that I can handle Van Dam now, because the meeting is over.
Oh, the cup. Pass the cup. Red and white.
Bye, Chairperson. Must tell Lutuli House he mustn't go intimidate the SABC. And then you get nervous because you thought.
Stay safe, my colleagues. Stay safe. Keep warm.
Bye.
Bye. I love you all of you.